My mom told me, "Give your sister $50,000 or there's no wedding." When I refused, she slapped me so hard I ended up in the ER with a concussion. After that, I didn't beg or apologize. I did this. A month later, their perfect family image started to collapse. My name is Megan, I'm 32, and I work for a big development company in Columbus, Ohio. I do all the presentations, build visual reports for investors and city officials, pick everything from fonts to renderings so it all looks expensive, convincing, and finished on time. The job isn't exactly a spa day. One week my boss is texting at 3 in the morning, the next a project falls apart the day before a pitch to the mayor. But I love what I do. There's logic in it. Taste, order. Ryan and I have been together for 5 years. We met when he joined the project department. Back then we were still in the old office in a tired brick building on Main Street downtown. At first he seemed too proper, even boring. Then the whole company went to Chicago for a national urban planning conference. That's where it all started. He turned out to be the kind of man you feel safe with. No circus. Today is our engagement party. We've rented a cozy restaurant just outside the city. Everything is exactly how I wanted it. Real flowers, steady candles, music quiet enough that you don't have to shout. Not flashy, but tasteful. I look at Ryan, tall, calm, warm eyes, and catch myself thinking, so this is that thing they call women's happiness. He's holding me by the waist, saying something low in my ear, and it feels like even the air in the room is breathing with us. At the tables, our friends, co-workers, a couple of college girlfriends, Ryan's parents, and even his cousin who flew in from out of state. And of course, my family. Although in my case, family is more of a legal status than a feeling. My parents, Karen and Mark, picked a table closer to the entrance. They sat like they'd wandered into the DMV by accident. Forced smiles, and Brittany, my younger sister, was hunched over her phone, never once looking up from her feed. Standard. Her entire life is Instagram stories and cupcakes. I've lost count of how many iPhones she's burned through. We were never close, and it only got worse over the years. I tried not to notice these little details. It was my night, and I wanted to think about me and Ryan, about our love and our bright future. But then my mother stood up. She tapped a spoon against her glass. "Friends, a moment of attention," she said with an unnaturally soft smile. "First of all, congratulations to Megan and Ryan. We wish you happiness, love, respect, all the good things, so you don't end up like some people. Big wedding, huge debt, and then you're back living with your parents in their guest room." Applause, clinking glasses. I gave a polite smile. So far, nothing catastrophic. Then Mom kept going, and it wasn't warm anymore. Thank you, my dears. At this solemn and important moment, Mark and I want to make an announcement. The money we once set aside for Megan's wedding is going to be given to Brittany instead. She needs it more right now." The room went quiet. So quiet I could hear a waiter's shoe squeak. I stared at her. "Mom, you're joking, right?" I asked, smiling stiffly. "That's my money. It's in my account. We've already planned everything around it." She pursed her lips. "Don't be childish," she sighed. "We're talking about family. You'll manage. You've got a good job your Ryan is earning. You'll figure out your little wedding and your mortgage. But Brittany, it's harder for her." Ryan tensed at my side. "What money exactly?" he asked quietly. I swallowed. I knew what she meant, of course, but I hadn't expected this. "The $50,000 we saved for Megan," my mother announced to the room. "From when she was in college. We set it aside so both girls would have a start in life. But Brittany's situation is different. She lives much more modestly, she doesn't have such a salary. Her fiancé is trying, but it's tough. So we decided it'll be fair if Megan gives the money to her. She'll survive without it." The guests froze. Some tried to pretend they hadn't heard. Someone stared at their plate like the salad had suddenly become fascinating. I felt something in my chest start to boil. "Excuse me," I said slowly. "We planned that money for years. Part of it is for the down payment on a place, part for the wedding. We're not talking about pocket change here. We've been careful and responsible. How do you just hand it over like that?" Mom snorted. "You're starting a family. You'll be fine. You have steady jobs. You're getting a mortgage you'll manage. You're not starving." Brittany finally tore herself away from the phone and stood up. "Megan, don't be so greedy," she said with fake sympathy. "What, you can't share? We could do a joint wedding. You can see I have it harder. Just have some compassion." "Harder?" I shot back. "Because you blew through everything you had, and now you want to take what's mine? Seriously?" Mom flared up instantly. "She lives modestly. She doesn't have your paycheck. Her fiancé is doing his best, and you only think about yourself. It's ugly to treat your own flesh and blood like this." "I've been working my whole life," I cut her off. "I save, I plan, I live like an adult. And now I'm being punished for someone else's irresponsibility?" Ryan tried to put an arm around me, but I was already in motion. The room fell into that heavy silence where you can hear nothing but cutlery clinking. No one knew where to look. Mom took a step toward me and suddenly, right there in front of everyone, slapped me across the face. Not a symbolic slap, a real one, full force. I didn't even have time to move away. The sound cracked through the restaurant like a gunshot. My head snapped back, my heels slipped, and I lost my balance. I crashed to the floor, knocking a glass off the table. Glass shattered. Voices jumped into a panic. "Miss, are you okay? Somebody get ice. Call 911. My cheek was burning, but the back of my head hurt even more. Later, they told me I'd hit the sharp corner of a wooden table leg. Everything blurred. My ears were ringing. Someone shoved a folded jacket under my head. Someone else pressed ice to the growing bump. I heard voices like they were underwater. I tried to answer and produced nothing but a garbled sound. Brittany was standing nearby, mumbling something incoherent. Not angry now. Scared. The manager ran over and called an ambulance. By policy, they also called the police. Someone had been injured in a fight in the dining room. One of the guests said firmly, "I saw it. She hit her right in the face." "And she fell and hit her head," another added. "There's blood." Ryan was right there, holding my hand, repeating, "It's okay. It's going to be okay. Do you hear me?" We waited for the ambulance maybe 10 minutes. By then I was conscious, but nauseous and dizzy. The paramedics looked at the swelling and the scrape and said, "Mild concussion at least. We need to take her in. She needs a CT. The police arrived almost at the same time. One of the officers came up to me in the doorway as they wheeled me out. "Are you able to tell us what happened?" I nodded, then said hoarsely, "That's my mother. She hit me." A guest stepped in. "Yes, we saw it. She slapped her hard, and the girl fell." By then they were walking my mother out of the hall. She was hissing that I was making it up, that this was a family matter. But the officer calmly explained, "Ma'am, there's an assault here and visible injury. This is not just a family argument. This is a criminal matter, and it happened in a public place." They took Mom aside to take her statement and write up the report. Not in handcuffs, but clearly not as a private little chat either. Everyone saw. In the ER, they did the scans, poked and prodded, and finally said, "Mild concussion, nasty contusion on the back of the head. No brain bleed, no fracture. Rest, no heavy lifting, no driving for a bit. Watch for nausea and headaches," the doctor said. "If anything gets worse, come back." I was still in shock. I barely slept that night. In the morning, Ryan came with fruit, documents, and one simple sentence. "Megan, we can't just let this go. I'm with you, all the way." We met with a lawyer that same day. They set us up with Rebecca, a calm, experienced woman in her 40s. No baby talk, no drama, just business. She skimmed the police report, the ER paperwork, listened to us, and nodded. "This isn't just a slap," she said. "This is an assault that sent you to the hospital. There will be a criminal case, most likely a misdemeanor, but still, we can also pursue a civil claim for damages. We'll do everything formally." "We will," I said. "This isn't the first horrible thing she's done, but it will be the last one without consequences." The case moved forward. Questioning witnesses, collecting the restaurant's security footage, the doctor's report. Everything confirmed that she'd hit me and I'd been injured. A few weeks later, there was a hearing. Mom stood there with a stone face. Her attorney mumbled about emotions and moral pressure in a family argument. The judge just smirked. "Families can have conflicts," he said, "but they shouldn't be sending each other to the emergency room." The sentence: a fine, around 200 hours of community service, court-ordered anger management classes and counseling, and $10,000 in restitution paid to me for medical bills and emotional distress. When they gave me the floor, I got up, looked my mother straight in the eyes, and said calmly, "You gave me life. And then you hit me so hard you almost took my health. I don't hate you, but after this, I can't respect you anymore." The judge didn't add anything, just nodded. After court, I moved through the days like I was numb. I hoped this was the peak and that things would calm down from there. Stupid hope. What happened at the restaurant didn't just spoil the relationship, it buried it. Mom stopped calling. Brittany blocked me everywhere she could. Dad? He just disappeared into his usual silent neutrality. Not for, not against, like I didn't exist. I tried not to think about it, but that didn't last long. A little over 3 weeks later, I came home from work, opened the mailbox, and pulled out a thick envelope. Certified mail from a law office downtown. My heart dropped into my shoes. I opened it. First words: complaint. From whom? From my parents. The gist? Unreal. They were suing me, demanding I return the $50,000 they'd once transferred for needs and education. And now, apparently, I'd used the money not as intended. Not for a degree, but for the wedding, renovations, and the down payment on a condo. In their version, it hadn't been a gift at all, but, quote, temporarily placed at my disposal with an informal understanding it would be returned on demand. At first I laughed hysterically. Then I sat down right there on the hallway floor and stared at nothing for a long time. As if it weren't enough that Mom had physically injured me and ruined my engagement party, and because of that we had to push the wedding plans back indefinitely, now she'd decided to land a second, finishing blow. I called Rebecca the next day. I had all the documents, bank statements, the wire transfer details, our mortgage paperwork, the venue contract, even old text messages with my parents. Rebecca flipped through everything and nodded. "The account is in your name," she said. "You had full control starting when you turned 18. There's no written loan agreement, no promissory note, no written conditions." "Right," I said. "It was just a wire transfer from their account to mine." "And you were already in college when they sent it?" "Yes." "Then forget it," she said evenly. "Legally, that's a gift. They can tell whatever story they want about what they meant. But if they didn't bother to put that on paper at the time, no court is going to treat this as a loan, especially since, judging by these statements, you spent the money through bank transfers on reasonable things, housing, wedding, basic living expenses, documented. The fact that they suddenly remembered some secret condition doesn't matter. The judge won't care." I exhaled. Good news, in theory, but the anger was still boiling. "Then why this whole circus?" I asked. Rebecca shrugged. "Because it's easier to blame you than admit they blew money on their favorite child," she said. They're protecting her, and you're the convenient target. That's when it really sank in. This wasn't just a lawsuit. It was my whole life in miniature. There's always the poor girl, life is so hard for her, and the other one who will manage. For some reason, I'm the one who's supposed to pay for everyone else's mistakes. The next few months were hell. We wrote responses, collected more documents, pulled additional statements, dissected every detail. The case dragged on like they always do. Pre-trial hearings, conferences. My parents sat in the courtroom with Brittany like 3 statues. No glances my way. Just sour faces and eye rolls. Brittany looked like she'd come to a spa day. Full makeup, perfect hair, smug expression. At one hearing, she suddenly stood up and announced that the money had originally been intended exclusively for education, and that the fact I'd lived on it, bought furniture, and a dress was, quote, misuse of funds. Rebecca stayed completely calm. And you, as I understand it, had a similar amount transferred to you under the same conditions? She asked Brittany. Yes, Brittany muttered. Did you spend your money only on tuition and school expenses? Silence. Well, not all of it, she finally said. You dropped out after 2 years, correct? Rebecca continued. Then used part of the money to open a clothing boutique that closed in 6 months. Then bought a new car with what was left. Was that also for education? No answer. The judge raised his eyebrows. Well then, Rebecca said, if the conditions were identical, why are there claims only against my client? Silence again. Even my parents' lawyer looked uncomfortable. For the first time in a long while, I sat up straight and didn't feel guilty. This wasn't just a legal process. It was an attempt to paint me as stingy, ungrateful, difficult, when in reality I was simply inconvenient, standing next to someone's spoiled favorite. Ryan came to every hearing. He never missed one. He just held my hand. Sometimes he'd lean closer and whisper, "Remember, you're not alone. The truth is on your side." It didn't make it easy, but it helped me stay standing. We had to cut back on some wedding expenses. I slept badly. The back of my head still throbbed sometimes where I'd hit it. Occasionally, I'd find myself just sitting in the bathroom, staring at the wall. Exhaustion. Pressure. It's a special kind of shock when your own family is trying to erase you. But I kept going. Because this wasn't about $50,000, it was about respect. For myself, my life, my boundaries. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, my phone started ringing. First it was Natalie, Ryan's cousin. "Megan, I'm so sorry the wedding got canceled," she said quietly. I froze. "Canceled? Since when?" Your mom called me. She said you and Ryan broke up, that he cheated on you, that there was never really going to be a wedding." I sat there with the phone in my hand, not trusting what I was hearing. Over the next hour, 3 more people called. Acquaintances, distant relatives, even a college classmate. All with the same question. "Is it true the wedding's off?" At first, I couldn't figure out where this nonsense was coming from. Then someone sent me a screenshot. Apparently, I had emailed everyone personally saying there would be no wedding. The text was clumsy, but the writing style was close enough to mine to be creepy. I went through my own email. Nothing. It became clear. Somebody had set up a fake account, copied my name and style, and mass-mailed people. Pure impersonation. One goal: panic. One face popped into my mind immediately. I couldn't prove it. But the whole scheme, 100% Brittany's style. Sabotage had moved from the courtroom into my personal life. I called Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, one of the few relatives who hadn't jumped headfirst into this family circus. "I was just about to call you," she sighed. "Your mom's been telling everyone for a week that you and Ryan broke up, that he cheated on you and you lost it. She keeps repeating there was never really any wedding planned. It was all in your head. I leaned against the wall. At first I felt sick, then just disgusted. Why is she doing this? I asked, already knowing the answer. Because she's protecting Brittany, Aunt Linda said quietly. She's always covered for her, even when Brittany did downright crazy things. I love your sister, but your mom is like a bulletproof vest between her and common sense, and now she's dragging you down so Brittany will look okay. Those words hit harder than any court document. My own mother was wrecking my reputation to polish someone else's. That evening, Ryan came home, saw my face, and immediately asked, "What happened?" I showed him the fake emails, told him about my conversation with Aunt Linda. He clenched his jaw. "Yeah, I figured," he said. "Your sister messaged me too." He picked up his phone. "She says she has proof you cheated on me," he said. "Look." He turned the screen toward me. Pathetic, badly photoshopped pictures. My face glued onto some stranger's body next to a random guy. The lighting was all wrong, my neck twice as thick. It would have been funny if it wasn't so vile. "Of course I didn't believe it," Ryan said. "But can you imagine? She took it seriously enough to send it to me. She's already shown it to your parents." That's when we sat down and said together, "Enough." We hired security for the wedding, showed them photos of Brittany, my mother, and my father with clear instructions. Do not let these three in. No exceptions. Did it hurt to do that? Yes. But after everything they'd already done, I wasn't about to risk the most important day of my life. On our wedding day, I woke up with a strange mix of joy and anxiety. We picked a modest venue at a small event space with a garden about half an hour outside the city. A little lake, wooden arch, string lights, white chairs on the grass. Real, down-to-earth, human. I stood in the bridal room adjusting my veil. Guests were already arriving, and my heart was pounding like crazy. We'd planned for everything. 2 guards at the entrance, 1 by the side gate. And still. Around 2:30, someone knocked on the door. One of the guards came in, lowering his voice. "Megan, we just stopped a woman trying to come in through the service entrance," he said. "Matches the photo you gave us of your sister. She's got a can of red spray paint in her bag." I froze. Wedding dress. Guests. Flowers. She wanted to ruin it. "Was she alone?" "Yes, calm as could be. Said she just mixed up the entrance." He showed me a still from the security camera. Brittany. Defiant face. Lips pressed tight. "Do you want us to call the police?" I thought for a couple of seconds. I had every right. After the assault, the lawsuit, the lies, the fake photos, now vandalism. But I said, no, just escort her off the property and make sure my parents don't get in either. He nodded. I sank back into the chair I'd just gotten up from and exhaled deeply. I wanted to cry, but my friend Tara was right there. She grabbed my hand and whispered, "That's it. They tried to break you, and you're still standing. That means you've already won. Pull yourself together and go get married. You survived the court mess, the gossip, the photoshopped other man, and a slap from your own mother, with a concussion on top. And you're still here. You know what that means? You beat them. Now get up. This isn't a tragedy. It's your wedding. You owe it to yourself, to Ryan, and to everyone who actually loves you to shine today." I wiped my face and stood up like I'd just put on armor. Uncle Peter walked me down the aisle. Strict, quiet, but when he took my arm, he squeezed my elbow in a fatherly way, and I felt an incredible calm settle inside me. The garden looked like something out of a movie. Summer evening, strings of lights, wooden arch decorated with daisies and wildflowers, just like I'd dreamed. Ryan was standing there, looking at me with those love-struck eyes. Everything else disappeared. Brittany, Mom, Dad. The lawsuits, they all stayed in the past. There was just me, him, and our love, tempered by every circle of hell we'd already walked through. The ceremony was simple, easy. The officiant, a pastor from Ryan's family church, a kind man with lively eyes, said a few short things, all to the point, about patience, respect, how it's not about money. When he said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," everyone started clapping and congratulating us from the heart. I almost cried from relief. The reception was exactly right. No lobster towers or staged show, just a real celebration. First, the band played an instrumental piece that sounded straight out of an old movie, then classic rock, then some country, and by the end of the night, 90s pop and even a couple of embarrassingly catchy early 2000s hits. Everyone found something they loved. No one was bored. The guys kept yelling, "Kiss, kiss!" The aunties whispered in corners about who'd lost weight and who was clearly aiming for a second marriage. Tara raised her glass and said, "Megan, you're like a phoenix. They tried to burn you to ash, and you still walked down that aisle glowing so bright everyone gasped." I laughed, then cried, but now from happiness. Ryan and I ate cherry cake, danced until we dropped, and when the guests showered us with rice at the exit, we ran to the car laughing like kids. I looked back at the venue. It glowed in the dusk like a little lighthouse. Our honeymoon felt like a gift from the universe. We took off to a tiny town on the Gulf Coast in Florida. No real Wi-Fi, but plenty of ocean, watermelons from roadside stands, and sunrises over the water. No court dates, no hysterics. Just him, me, and seagulls. For the first time in a long while, I could actually breathe. When we came back, we dove into the apartment. We found a small but bright condo in a quiet neighborhood not far from the city. With what was left of the money and our savings, we made a down payment. The mortgage was manageable on our salaries. For the first time in our lives, we weren't just throwing money into rent. We were paying for our future. Not a mansion, but cozy, comfortable. What else do you need? We were setting it up ourselves, hanging shelves, assembling the IKEA couch, arguing in Home Depot over curtain rods and tile colors, eating frozen dumplings straight from the pot at midnight, just like normal people. Wedding photos and travel shots went up on the walls, and in the hallway we stuck a cheesy little magnet from our Gulf Coast town, a beach and a sunset. Not the Maldives, but no debt from some crazy wedding package, and a light heart. Most importantly, ours. Home. One Saturday we were wrestling with that damned IKEA dresser. Ryan was grumbling that the instructions were clearly written for robots, not humans. Then he suddenly chuckled and asked, "Who do you think will be the first person to stay over here?" I froze for a second, looked away. A wild thought flashed through my head. Maybe my parents will come to their senses one day and apologize. Or Brittany, maybe. Then I shoved the thought away. I don't breathe in the direction of fantasy anymore. Whoever it is, I smiled, as long as they come with a clean heart. The holidays came and went. New Year's, Easter, my birthday. Each time, no calls, no messages, just silence. At first it stung, especially on my birthday, when not even a text from Mom came. But then I'd remember the slap, the hospital, the court, the lies, the paint, the fake photos, all that filth. And the hurt would step back. Clarity stayed. They are no longer my support system. Probably never were. Sometimes Ryan asks if I believe there'll ever be peace between me and my family. Maybe, I answer honestly. But sorry won't be enough. They'd have to actually change. So far, there's no sign of that. People talked about Brittany's wedding for a long time. They went all out. Champagne fountains, a string quartet, custom dresses for the bridesmaids. But some of our relatives refused to go on principle. They just couldn't stomach how cruelly I'd been treated. Some declined politely. Others said straight out, "We don't enjoy weddings like that." Then the whispers started about the loan my parents took out for all that splendor. Either they took out a second mortgage on their house or even borrowed against Grandma's condo in Florida, all to launder their reputation like last year never happened. But it did, and people remember. Life with Ryan goes on. We're getting stronger as a couple. At some point it hits me. Family isn't just the people who share your DNA. It's the ones who respect your boundaries, who are happy for you, and who don't humiliate you at every opportunity. I lost a lot, but I gained far more. A home, a husband, friends who stayed, and most importantly, I didn't lose myself. So what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more.